Greetings and salutations, and welcome to yet another End of the Year Top 10 video. This time around, celebrating the best mods of 2017. And as always, I'm your host, Dark, and to say the least, 2017 was an exciting year for the Morrowind modding community, and arguably the biggest year in Morrowind modding in the last decade. So many massive projects and new landmasses saw releases this year, not to mention a fully functional Morrowind multiplayer mod, finally fulfilling the dream of a multiplayer Morrowind after 15 long years, and making it possible to play the game cooperatively with friends or with hundreds of other players in a massively multiplayer online playstyle if you so desire. And in addition to all that, over 600 new Morrowind mods were released in 2017 with countless new quests to go on, dungeons to fight through, new lands to explore, not to mention massive updates to the community's flagship mods like Tower Rebuilt, Morrowind Rebirth, and OpenMW. Make no mistake, 2017 was one of the biggest years in Morrowind modding period, and far from an aging and dying community, the future looks very bright indeed. It only gets better from here, folks. But of course, we're here today to celebrate the top 10 best Morrowind mods of 2017. And as always, you'll find down the links for each mod shown here down in the video description below, along with timestamp annotations so you can jump right to the mod that you want, as well as general mod conflict warnings, mod cleaning recommendations, links to mod installing and cleaning tutorials if you need them, Morrowind Rebirth compatibility information, and also a link to Abbott's mod database if you'd like a tool for organizing and finding mods that were previously featured on this channel. And of course, with all that information down below, you probably don't even really need to watch this whole video if you don't want to. Some of you, find my voice grating, for example, which I certainly don't blame you if you do, since I also find it just a bit annoying myself. Then you can find pretty much everything that you need to know about the best mods of 2017 in the video description below, and you can just skip the whole video if you want to. Trust me, I won't be offended. After all, Morrowind Modding Showcases is a community channel, and my job is really just to point you in the direction of the mod. So as long as you, are going out and checking out these amazing mods, then my job is done. That's all I need to do. But with all that out of the way, let's get started with number 10, Caldera Mine Expanded, a quest mod first released by Team Dreamy and Dremora, composed of Melchior, Dahrk, TheDrunkenMudcrab, and Greatness 7 on September 16th, 2017 as part of the 2017 Morrowind Modding Madness modding competition. And for those who don't know, Morrowind Modding Madness is one of the 2 annual modding competitions hosted by the channel, where modders form teams and compete to win prizes and to claim the Throne of Madness from the patron saint of modding, the one and only Lord Shilgorath. And this year's Morrowind Modding Madness was a competition that took place over 2 months, where each team had just 2 weeks to build and release a mod that fit a randomly generated theme, for each of about 4 challenges, and Caldera Mine Expanded was one of the mods submitted for the first round of the competition, easily securing first place for Team Dreamy Dremora in the first round, a position they managed to hold on to throughout the entire competition. Now, we've obviously, shown off Caldera Mine Expanded several times on the channel already, so I'll try to keep this on the short side. But for those of you who haven't seen our other showcases of this mod though, Caldera Mine Expanded, much as the name would imply, expands and really overhauls the mines of Caldera, turning it into a much grander and epic vista that more properly fits its strategic importance on Vvardenfell as one of the largest ebony mines in Morrowind. No longer a simple, unfortified and small mine in the middle of nowhere, the Caldera mines are protected and guarded entries, massive cliff sides, and numerous surface mining excavations with rail lines and cranes, as is befitting one of the most valuable mineral deposits on the island. And not only that though, but the Caldera mines now have a number of quests, including 5 miscellaneous side quests, and a main quest that you can play as a member of any of the 3 great houses, with a different ending for each one, making for a questline that you can replay again and again from different sides, which is certainly a rather cool and interesting, little addition here. And all this, along with the immersive qualities of the landscape additions, not to mention the just epic appearance of the Caldera mines, makes this our number 10 pick for the best mods of 2017. Moving on, we have number 9, HD Vanilla Textures, a texture replacer mod first released on October 17th, 2017, by G the Generous. And this was one of 2 large-scale graphical replacer overhauls to be released in 2017, and this particular one, much as the name would imply, is more vanilla-based than anything else released in 2017. Basically, all this mod does is replace the vanilla Morrowind game textures with upscaled and sharper, higher resolution textures that are otherwise, pretty much exactly the same. This is really an ideal graphics mod for those who prefer the game's vanilla aesthetics, but just want, something that looks a wee bit better. And on the plus side, this overhaul covers pretty much the entire game, including landscape textures, furniture, architecture, containers, NPCs, creatures, miscellaneous items, ingredients, weapons, armor, clothing, and even the sky itself. It's a pretty simple and easy to install package that covers everything in one go. And of course, you can install it over a pre-existing Morrowind install or a pre-existing graphical overhaul package, as well as with MGEXC to enable distant land generation. And it has to be said that the vanilla game textures did have a pretty nice aesthetic, and were arguably of pretty good quality for 2002, so it's nice to have the option to just install a high-definition replacer to make the game look just a bit better, and more up to 2017 standards. And while we won't be showing off too much here due to time constraints and all that, the overall quality of this package is what makes it our number 9 pick for the top 10 Morrowind mods of 2017. And next up we have number 8, Discoveries and Adventures, a quest and dungeon mod first released on March 2nd, 2017 by JMK. And out of all the mods we'll be looking at in today's top 10 list, this is by far the most obscure and relatively unknown mod we'll be looking at in our lineup here. And that's largely due to the author's insistence on releasing his mods only on DeviantArt, and yes, that's right. The download link for this is actually a DeviantArt page, and I must confess, a mod hosting platform is not the first thing I think of when I think of DeviantArt, but oh well. In any event, regardless of lack of popularity, Discoveries and Adventures is a massive mod that adds dozens of new quests, a new faction, new dungeons, and new lands to explore, and much more. And you'll find a new faction, the Adventurers Guild, with chapters in Plesiad, Nissus, Mournhold, and Telrun, which you can join and go on quests for, with each faction location coming with at least 10 quests each, some of which are a bit more, bog standard, with, fetch-based objectives or running out and killing something, while others have to do with discoveries, typically involving exploring and discovering something in the game world somewhere, like a unique location. And most of these discovery quests involve vanilla game locations, many of which are sort of Easter egg locations or otherwise, fairly obscure, that you can now track down for money. And so other quests will of course involve dungeons and fighting through new lands and realms, with some fairly impressively large areas to fight through, and probably close to about 20 hours of gameplay content to occupy your time with. And without question, Discoveries and Adventures is one of the largest quest mods we released in 2017, with some 40 new quests here to do. And while it might be relatively unknown due to its limited publication, it's certainly well worth checking out for yourself. And while you're over there, you might want to download a few of JMK's other mods, particularly his other dungeon and quest mods, which, there's quite a few of them. And anyway, the sheer size of this mod, combined with the amount of content it provides, more than makes it a worthy contender for the number 8 slot of the best mods 2017. Coming up to our number 7 slot here, we have the Dwemer Rebirth project, a dungeon mod first released on October 17th, 2017 by RubberMan, and last updated on December 27th. And now this is another fairly massive project in the same vein as Darknut's Grey Dwemer Ruins, that aims to overhaul all the Dwemer Ruins in Morrowind, and to date it so far covers about 5 or 6 of the Dwemer Ruins in the base game. Originally this mod came about as a result of the Morrowind Modding Madness modding competition, the second round of which was Dwemer themed, and RubberMan got the idea for this project after working on his Morrowind Modding Madness mod, the Deep Arch Abyss, and his vision here is to make the Dwemer Ruins of Morrowind a bit more like their counterparts in Skyrim, at least in terms of interior art design and atmosphere anyway. And he's created a ton of new assets to more fully flesh out the Dwemer in Morrowind, including new bits of furniture, traps, gadgets, pipes, miscellaneous items, ingots, and much more. And each of the Dwemer Ruins that this mod touches upon have just been completely overhauled and changed, only vaguely keeping a somewhat similar layout as found in the vanilla version of the game, and far from being a typical run and gun affair where you just run in through and kill everything and loot everything you can. These Dwemer Ruins are now far more interactive, with puzzles, scripted encounters, and just neat little additions like animated elevator platforms that can take you between levels and all that. And to say the least, this is a really impressive project, completely changing the atmosphere and feel of these Dwemer Ruins, and for long-time players making them feel like an all-new experience. And personally, as a Morrowind dungeon modder myself, I have to admit that Skyrim dungeons are vastly superior to Morrowind dungeon design, which is, a very scandalous thing to say. So it's nice to see some of the better dungeon design elements from Skyrim in Morrowind, though not everyone will agree, I'm sure. And anyway, regardless of whether or not you're into Skyrim-style dungeons, the Dwemer Rebirth project is an impressive effort, to be sure, with more than a few hours of new content to explore, and more than worthy of our number 7 pick for the top 10 Morrowind mods of 2017. And moving on, we have number 6, Expedition to Mzelthuand, a dungeon and quest mod first released as part of Morrowind Modding Madness on October 3rd, 2017 by Team Dreamy Dremora, composed of Melchior, Darkk, TheDrunkenMudcrab, and Greatness 7. And yes, this is yet another mod from this year's Morrowind Modding Madness, from the same team that created our number 10 pick, Caldera Mine Expanded, and it might seem that I have a bit of a bias towards Team Dreamy Dremora, but trust me, their mods are really just that good. Much like the Dwemer Rebirth project, Expedition to Mzelthuand came about as a result of the second round of our Morrowind Modding Madness competition, the Dwemer-themed round, which saw a ton of just excellent mods from the various modding teams. But Expedition to Mzelthuand was the clear and by far away winner, getting a perfect score from every judge, the only mod in the 2-year span of our competition to do so. But having said all that, let's just move past the blatant bragging and move on to the actual mod content. And Expedition to Mzelthuand is a quest and dungeon mod involving a curious Argonian who can eventually become a companion that you can travel with, a new Dwemer ruin right off the seas of the Bitter Coast region, and a number of just magical puzzles that you'll need to solve in order to unlock various parts of these Dwemer ruins. And everything about this mod is pretty unique, with really nothing else quite like it in the Morrowind modding community, with complex scripts courtesy of the scripting maestro himself, Greatness 7, making for some really quite interesting puzzles that you'll need to solve, as well as a number of new assets, unique encounters, such as a warp gate that you can both see through and walk through, a portal gun that you can use to zip around Vardenfell, and just a ton of other stuff. The only real downside here is that there's quite an extensive list of requirements that you'll need to install first before playing, but otherwise this is a one-of-a-kind experience and a great mod to check out if you're a fan of dungeon and quest mods, or if you're just, playing a mage-like character. And all of this makes it our number 6 pick for the top 10 mods of 2017. Next up, we have number 5, Darknut's World Textures, a texture replacer mod released on July 9th of 2017 by Darknut. And this was a product of nearly 8 years of development. Darknut's World Textures is a massive graphical replacer that covers very nearly everything in the base game, and it's the second of 2 major graphical overhaul mods to be released in 2017, the other one being our number 9 pick, though please don't read too much into the rankings here. Obviously some people will prefer the vanilla HD replacer to Darknut's here, but both deserve praise and recognition, which is why we're showing them off here in our top 10 list. Whether or not you think Darknut's World Textures should be ranked higher than vanilla HD is an entirely different question, and open to considerable interpretation and personal preference. But anyway, as mentioned before, Darknut's World Textures replaces most, if not all, of the textures in the base vanilla game, including landscape textures, some furniture, containers, banners, all the major types of architecture, except for Telvanni, and also all the different types of caverns and rocks, and all these textures are in 2048 by 2048 resolution, with fairly high definition detailing, and mostly keeping to a vanilla, adjacent style. Unlike Vanilla HD, which is purely vanilla-based, Darknut's World Textures does look a bit different from the original game textures, but not by that much. And of course, we'll be doing a very brief look at these textures here due to, time limitations. But if you'd like to check out Darknut's World Textures in greater detail, with largely no audio narration and just, background music, we did a 3-hour-long showcase of Darknut's World Textures a few months back, a link to which you'll find in the video description below. And regardless, Darknut's World Textures are pretty high quality, and personally I really quite like them. And as a texture replacer, you can, always mix and match different replacer mods if you want. If you prefer a set of textures from a different graphical overhaul mod. And whether or not you're a fan of the texture style here, you gotta appreciate the amount of work that went into this package. And as one of only 2 major graphical replacers in 2017, it's certainly worthy of our number 5 slot for the top 10 Morrowind mods of 2017. And coming up, we have number 4, City of Balmora, a town expansion, quest, and faction mod released by EnvyDeveloper and Praedator on November 19th, 2017. And this is another project that's been in development for a pretty long time, somewhere between 5 and 7 years of development, and finally got released towards the end of 2017 here. Originally envisioned as a massive expansion of the City of Balmora, over the several years of development time, the project, sort of came to be an expansion of all the Hladu territories of Vardenfell, including the small towns of Suran, Hla'ud, and Gnar, as well as adding all new towns, estates, strongholds, a new island, and much more. And after Praedator left the modding community in 2014, the project was taken up by EnvyDeveloper, who finished the mod in November with about 40 new quests and a dozen new dungeons, not to mention 3 new factions that you can join, and to say the least, there's a lot of content here, though the highlight really is again the town expansions, with Balmora seeing a massive expansion that pretty much doubles its original size, with new districts spanning outwards from the center, with a new shipping district along the Odai River, and new shack districts going along the roads out of town, where those who port to live in the city proper cluster along the main roadways. And likewise, the Sea of Suran has seen a pretty massive expansion, becoming more than twice its original size, with fairly sprawling residential districts, a massive shipping port, and expanded markets and warehouses, and, all that. Though a caveat that should be mentioned here is that many of these new town expansions are cosmetic only, containing no real interiors, just, empty shells to fill up the city. And in the case of Balmora, only about half all the new buildings have actual interiors to explore. And in addition, there's also a new island with a fairly large lovely city on it. But again, this city is mostly without any interiors, and there's perhaps only about 12 buildings that you can actually go into here. But despite these shortcomings, the mod still has about 40 new quests to go on, and a dozen highly detailed dungeons to explore, so there's still hours of content jam-packed into this package, which is what makes it our number 4 pick for the top 10 Morrowind mods of 2017. Now moving on, we have number 3, Province Cyrodiil's Island of Stirk, a province and landmass mod released on May 1st, 2017 by the Province Cyrodiil and Project Tamriel teams. And this is one of the 2 big new landmass mods we released in 2017, both of which were released on May 1st, just in time for Morrowind's 15th anniversary. And to say the least, there's a lot to talk about here. First and foremost, the Province Cyrodiil team is a group of dedicated modders who have been working to add the Province of Cyrodiil to the game world of Morrowind since about 2007. Going by the original lore and descriptions of Cyrodiil first found in the Pocket Guide to the Empire. So this is no, blind copy of the Cyrodiil from Oblivion, but rather a Cyrodiil that uses the extensive politics, intrigue, and, just a bit of an alien nature about it that has more in common with Morrowind than the more recent Elder Scrolls games. Now originally, the Province Cyrodiil team released an alpha version of the Island of Stirk back in 2012, but that was only a very early alpha, with essentially no interiors, NPCs, quests, or dungeons. This year, they've released a pretty much complete and finished version of Stirk, a tropical island in the Obsidian Sea that plays home to a port city by the same name. This town here is actually fairly large by Elder Scrolls standards, with about 25 to 30 buildings, making it larger than the largest city in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, though that isn't exactly difficult to do, including numerous shops, taverns, warehouses, residences, and a governor's mansion. And despite the tranquil and peaceful appearance of this thriving fishing community, it's currently undergoing a bit of a power struggle, as some of the quests and dialogue will explain. And in addition to all that, because this is a province mod, Stirk also has dozens of new assets, new books and literature, miscellaneous items, new types of furniture, architecture, and really just about everything else that you can think of. It also plays home to a number of dungeons, including Smuggler's Coves, Pirate Havens, Sunken Ships, Goblin Caves, and of course, those famous Iliad ruins from the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. One of the few things that the Province Cyrodiil team decided to keep from the 4th game in the series. And, I must say, the Iliad ruins here are pretty fantastic, and look almost exactly like the same ones as their Oblivion counterparts, with dark and atmospheric dungeons, father stones, Iliad furniture and loot, and of course, a few traps to, keep you on your toes. And overall, Province Cyrodiil's Island of Stirk includes 80 finished exterior cells, 60 plus interior cells, about 3 to 5 miscellaneous quests, with the main quest planned for a future update. And of course, we may well see the release of the City of Anvil later this year, as Anvil and much of really the Gold Coast region is already pretty much close to being exterior and perhaps interior complete, so we may well get to see some of the Cyrodiil mainland here pretty soon. And with so much exciting new content, it's really pretty obvious to see why this is in our number 3 slot here. And going on, we have number 2, Skyrim Home of the Nords, The Reach, a province and landmass mod released on May 1st, 2017 by the Skyrim Home of the Nords and Project Tamriel teams. And this is the second of the 2 big landmass mods released in 2017, not to mention the second mod released just in time for Morrowind's 15th anniversary on May 1st. And it's by far the largest landmass mod, or content mod of any kind really, to be released in 2017, adding a massive region of the western part of the province of Skyrim to the game world of Morrowind, basically a large chunk of the Reach. And it cannot be underestimated how massive this mod is. The full size of this 2017 release is about the same size as the entire island of Solstein, aka the Blood Moon expansion pack. And just to provide a little background here, the Skyrim Home of the Nords team has been working on building the province of Skyrim in the Morrowind game engine since about 2005, about 6 years or so before the release of Bethesda's own The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So coincidentally, this province mod shares almost nothing in common with the actual game Skyrim, instead using the lore and descriptions of the Pocket Guide to the Empire and also the little-known Elder Scrolls Travels Shadowkey, a game that came out in the early 2000s, as the basis for the world building here. And in any event, while there was a sort of demo alpha release for, part of the Reach back in 2012, this is the first actually complete major release to be made by the Skyrim Home of the Nords team, and it includes one major city, the city Karthwasten, which has about 80 to 85 buildings, making it roughly 4 times larger than the largest city in the entire game of Skyrim. Now again, that's not particularly difficult to do when, the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim cities were so utterly tiny. And there's also one small town, the Nordic town of Kothgard, and a number of various Reachman, Orc, and Nordic hamlets and villages dotting the landscape. And as you might expect, there's also a ton of dungeons, from caverns, bandit lairs, to Nordic barrows that do actually, borrow some of the art design from the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and also the Dreamy ruins, which were once the dominant civilization in this part of the world thousands of years ago. While there's still not that many quests in this release, the amount of content just stuffed into this mod really can't be understated, with over 200 finished exterior cells, over 150 new interiors, and not to mention hundreds of new assets from architecture to miscellaneous items, weapons, armors, clothing, ingredients, artifacts, various treasures, potions, and just really so much more. There's really just a massive amount of stuff here, and of course Skyrim Home of the Nords is compatible with pretty much all the other major Morrowind mods out there, so you can play it with pretty much anything. And normally this would have been our mod of the year without question, had a certain other mod not also been released in 2017, but regardless, this is still one of the best and certainly largest mods to be released in 2017, and more than deserves the number 2 slot in our top 10 list here. Finally, we have number 1, our mod of the year, TS3MP, the Morrowind multiplayer mod by the TS3MP team, first released to the public in the summer of 2017. And now this really shouldn't come as much of a surprise to anyone that this is our mod of the year for 2017. After all, Morrowind players and modders have been dreaming of a Morrowind multiplayer since before the game even came out, and that's been a dream with each and every new Elder Scrolls game in the core series. Dozens of projects over the years have attempted to make this dream a reality, from Morrowind to Skyrim, but this year we saw the first actual, completely functional, play the entire game in multiplayer with NPC syncing and pretty much all the base gameplay elements, multiplayer mod for any Elder Scrolls game, and that was obviously TS3MP, an extremely impressive project that allows you to join one of dozens of public servers, or create your own, and to play cooperatively with friends or potentially hundreds of other players in massively multiplayer online-like settings. And now you can go on all the familiar quests with your friends, like the Mages Guild questline or the Thieves Guild questline, or have a massive raid-like battle of Daggerthair, or fight through any of the game's vanilla dungeons, or have large-scale player versus player battles in the middle of Balmora. There's really just so many new potential experiences here. For the first time in Elder Scrolls modding history, a regular Elder Scrolls title has been made into a multiplayer game, where just about anything is possible. And of course, this is all largely thanks to the OpenMW game engine replacement for Morrowind, which finally made a project like TS3MP viable. And indeed, TS3MP works as a sort of a built-on replacement of OpenMW they install over a OpenMW Morrowind install. And much like with OpenMW, this means that pretty much the vast majority of Morrowind mods out there, from massive new landmasses like TerraBuilt, Skyrim Home of the Nords, Caldera, and to Province Cyrodiil, to smaller dungeon and quest mods, will all work with TS3MP. Meaning that you can now not only play Morrowind in multiplayer mode, but you can play TerraBuilt, a mod that is nearly double the size of vanilla Morrowind, with your friends and complete strangers as well. And already there's public servers that have TerraBuilt and Skyrim Home of the Nords available, and as these massive mods get bigger and bigger, there'll just be more and more content for you to experience in a multiplayer environment. This is one of the main reasons why I have this as our mod of the year, instead of, Skyrim Home of the Nords, because while Skyrim would have been our mod of the year in a normal year, the sheer amount of new playability and experiences that TS3MP offers just sort of dwarfs everything else. And not only can you practically play any regular old Morrowind mod with TS3MP, but also there's been increasingly more and more mods released this last year meant specifically for Morrowind multiplayer, offering new ways to experience the game, like an arena mode that kind of plays a lot like, Players Unknown Battlegrounds, where players are dropped randomly around the game world of Morrowind, and they have 30 minutes to find weapons and supplies before they're all summoned to the arena in Vivec City, where they're forced to fight to the death in an epic death match, where only the last player standing can be declared the winner. And that's just one of potentially multitudes of new gameplay modes that will eventually become a part of TS3MP, offering just entirely new ways to experience Morrowind. And it really cannot be understated just how much TS3MP is revolutionizing the way we play this 15-year-old game. And the future looks very bright indeed, with future TS3MP updates, mods, and gameplay modes offering even more to see and do. All this, without question, makes TS3MP our mod of the year for 2017. And real quick, I would also like to give a special thanks to David C., one of the lead developers for TS3MP, for providing the video footage here in the background. And with any luck, we'll hopefully have an interview with him later this year for a Morrowind modding interview, see his thoughts on the project and what's next for future TS3MP updates. Now, I do have just a few honorable mentions I'd like to go through here, since there were, just so many large mods released this year. There's quite a few smaller and mid-sized projects that might otherwise be overlooked, but, still do deserve some recognition. Starting with JSP's Mines and Caverns by JSP25, a dungeon mod first released in a compilation form on April 18th of 2017. And in a normal year, this would have been in our, numbered slots on our top 10 list here, but again, there's just been a lot going on this year of mod releases. Despite that though, Mines and Caverns is a pretty massive mod that aims to expand and overhaul a lot of the, you guessed it, Mines and Caverns of vanilla Morrowind. And in a way, this makes it fairly similar to RubberMan's Dwemer Rebirth project, which focuses on Dwemer ruins. And overall, Mines and Caverns overhauls about 43 dungeons across vanilla Morrowind, sometimes just, overhauling them with more detailed clutter, rocks, and other miscellaneous items, and sometimes adding massive expansions with over a dozen new dungeon interior cells, vastly expanding what were once extremely small and forgettable dungeons, and turning them into fairly epic encounters. There's perhaps 12 to 15 hours of new dungeon delving content here if you try and play through everything. And like I said before, this is a fairly massive mod, and really you shouldn't read too much into the ranking here. Ideally it would have been, in our core top 10 list. It's certainly an impressive enough mod for that, but there just, were too many big and impressive mods this year. Either way, I would certainly, recommend trying it out. It really does improve a lot of these vanilla dungeon locations. And as a bonus, it's also compatible with Morrowind Rebirth, and also the vast majority of other mods out there, so you can play it with just about anything. And in any event, all this makes it our first honorable mention for the best mods of 2017. For our second honorable mention, we have Bloodwind, a dungeon mod first released by Matthew the Bagel on December 2nd of 2017. And, I had a bit of trouble trying to decide between this mod and Corsair's Blackthorn Barrow, another impressive and unique dungeon mod released in 2017. But ultimately I decided to go with Bloodwind here, if only because it's the larger of the two dungeon mods, with a bit more questing content to do. Though certainly both are worthy of mention, and I would highly recommend that you go play both of them. But anyway, in any event, Bloodwind is a fairly large dungeon mod in a sort of more traditional old-school vein, sharing more in common with the old, D&D style RPGs and perhaps more modern style Elder Scrolls dungeons. What starts out as a simple cave out in the wilds of the West Cache turns into an epic dungeon romp adventure, going through the ancient remains of an imperial fort that befell some sort of twisted fate, becoming a forgotten realm beneath the stone and ash of Ardenfell. But you're not the first to arrive here. A band of pirates and smugglers has discovered this place first, and are intent on looting it for everything it's worth. Though things don't exactly go as they planned, since these old ruins are absolutely swarming with the undead, often resulting in chambers where you'll be in three-way battles, you against the pirates and the undead, and both of them at each other's throats. And as you delve deep and deep into the Dahrk here, you'll get to learn more about the story here, with documents detailing the history of the fort, as well as the pirates who have come to loot this place. You'll also find a number of slaves that you can free as you explore these dungeons, and there's a number of small little side quests to check out as well. And all in all, this is a fairly large dungeon with 15 interior zones and at least 3 to 4 hours of gameplay content. Now obviously there's been a lot of dungeon mods released in 2017, but I do think this one is more than worthy of an honorable mention here, and I would again, highly recommend checking it out for yourself. Now, for our final honorable mention here, we have Immersive Madness, a quest mod released by Rot on May 30th of 2017 as part of the Morrowind Marathon Month modding competition. And this is, well, a rather unique mod to say the least. It was the winning mod of last year's Morrowind Marathon Month, coming in first place out of about 29 mods submitted for the 3rd annual Modathon modding competition, and achieving universal acclaim amongst our panel of judges and the player base at large. And while it isn't, an overly large mod per se, I wanted to give it a shout out here, because it's a really, just unique and one-of-a-kind mod, and there's just nothing else really quite like it. But to explain a bit, Immersive Madness adds a new faction to the game world of Morrowind, the Cult of Sheogorath, which you can now join, and as the newest member of the cult, you're automatically the Grand Master of the entire organization, and you'll have to do quests in order to earn demotions. And these quests involve a number of incredibly odd things, which is really to be expected when dealing with the Lord of Madness, such as fighting out a duel with another group of cultists using a staring contest. He who blinks first is a loser. And that's just one example. There's a number of other just purely mad and utterly insane quests that'll have you setting people on fire and beating rocks with sticks and, a bunch of other just crazy things. And the dialogue and story design here is really just top-notch and fits in perfectly with the Lord of Madness. And, it's an odd mod to be sure, but one that I would absolutely recommend playing for yourself. I mean, there's just really nothing else like it in the Morrowind modding community. Hence why it's our final honorable mention for 2017. And that pretty much wraps up everything for our top 10 list here. Again, download links and important information regarding requirements and mod conflicts can be found in the video description below. 2017 was just a fantastic year for the modern modding community, and I'd like to thank all the modders out there, not just the ones we featured here, for keeping this amazing community and this amazing game alive even after 15 years. And here's hoping that 2018 will be even better. Long live Morrowind, and long live the Morrowind modding community.